Well, welcome today for another episode of Christian Answers. My name is Pastor Jeff Short, and I will be leading you through a discussion on a contemporary issue that we see in the news today, and it is over the topic of abortion. Now, a couple weeks ago, I gave dealing with the problematic movement in our culture called Shout Your Abortion, where women are actually going online and recording video testimonials to the effect that they say their abortion is a good thing, that they feel good about themselves for having an abortion, and so on and so forth. And I talked about how awful that is, how terrible that is, when you get to the point where mothers who have murdered their baby in the womb, that's abortion, are now coming out and saying that they're proud of the fact that they've done that. Now, even some feminist writers have come out against this movement, this Shout Your Abortion movement, where women seemingly are proud of the fact that they've gotten abortion. And that is a whole other topic. I dealt with that in a video a couple weeks ago. Today I want to talk about a topic on abortion where the candidate Donald Trump was asked his views on abortion. Now, I have been critical of Donald Trump in the past. I have done a couple of videos that raise the question about, is he a sincere, honest candidate, and can Christians actually trust him as a candidate who will come through on his word? And I've actually questioned his stance on pro-life issues, because it seems like he's late to the party as far as his pro-life stance. And it's a known fact that he at one point was pro-choice, for abortion. But in the interview that recently occurred and has caused all kinds of controversy, he has actually articulated a more honest and sincere position about abortion than I have heard any candidate of any party articulate. And it's so ironic, because here is a man who, from my opinion, doesn't think very deeply about issues, and yet he articulates a consistent pro-life position in a greater way than even the pro-life organizations today are articulating. And I'll explain what I mean shortly. But first of all, I want to play a video clip of Donald Trump and Chris Matthews in an interview where Chris Matthews really presses Donald Trump hard on the issue of abortion. And in my opinion, Donald Trump answers a very consistently pro-life answer. And so I want to play the clip, and then I want to talk about this clip, because I really think that this interview was really a profound political interview. It was actually a profound philosophical and theological conversation, because this interviewer, Chris Matthews, really pressed Donald Trump, and Donald Trump really gave concrete answers as well as he could. And I think that he actually did better than a lot of pro-life Christians do when they try to talk about abortion in public. So let's roll this clip, and then I want to talk about the answers and the responses. So we'll see this clip right now.
Well, look, I mean, as you know, I'm pro-life, right? I think you know that. With exceptions, with the three exceptions. But pretty much that's my stance. Is that okay? You understand?
Now, I want to cut in here, and I want to talk about Donald Trump's pro-life stance. There was a woman, a young woman, who asked him, are you pro-life, pro-choice? What is your position on abortion? And Donald Trump answered calmly and rationally that he was pro-life. And then, to not even be ashamed of that, or to not be embarrassed by that, because it's very easy to sort of be embarrassed or be ashamed of being a pro-life person, because our culture, our pagan culture, is so pro-choice, anti-abortion, and they're so against the Christian moral standard of thou shalt not murder, and they're so against the traditional Christian understanding of morality, and that you don't kill your baby in the womb. They're so against that it's easy to be embarrassed, it's easy to be ashamed, it's easy to be intimidated into even being a reserved pro-life person. Well, Donald Trump doesn't appear to be embarrassed. He doesn't appear to be ashamed to be pro-life. And then at the end, it seemed like the young woman was not satisfied or was not happy with that answer, or that did not agree with her views. Evidently, she was for abortion, or she favors that a woman has the right to murder her child in the womb, or whatever. And then Donald Trump turned to her and said, "Is that okay? Can I have that view? Is that okay?" In other words, am I free as an American? Am I free as a pro-life person to hold my views in public, or am I going to be publicly shamed by the pro-abortion industry or the pro-abortion politicians or secular culture in general? So he actually stood up and was not intimidated by the question, and he wasn't intimidated by her negative reaction. And I think that we can learn something from Donald Trump here, ironically. And I don't usually say that, but I think that Christians, pro-life people of all stripes, can actually learn something in looking at how he is able to articulate his pro-life view, if he has a pro-life view. Again, there's the whole big sincere honesty question. But if we can take him at his word here, he is unashamedly, unabashedly pro-life. And he asked the woman, the young woman who seemed to be frowning or not showing any kind of agreement with him, he asked her, "Is that okay? Can I do that? Can I be that way? Can I hold that position?" And he sort of put her on the spot, which as Christians, we have to be willing to actually state our views and not be ashamed of them and not be embarrassed, and actually turn to the person and say, "Is that okay? Can I hold that view? Are you going to condemn me for having a viewpoint that differs from yours?" And so this is something we can learn, and this is something we can take away from. Well, let's watch some more of the video.
What should the law be on abortion?
Well, I have been pro-life.
I know. What should the law? I know your principle. That's a good value, but
well, you know,
what should be the law?
They've set the law, and frankly, the judges, and I mean, you're going to have a very big election coming up for that reason, because you have judges where it's a real tipping point. And with the loss of Scalia, who was, you know, a very strong conservative, this presidential election is going to be very important, because when you say what's the law, nobody knows what the law is going to be. It depends on who gets elected, because somebody's going to appoint conservative judges and somebody's going to appoint liberal judges depending on who wins.
I've never understood the pro-life position.
Well,
I never understood it, because I understand principle. It's human life as people see it. But what crime? What crime is it?
Well, it's human life.
No, should the woman be punished for having an abortion?
Well, here Chris Matthews is confusing the issue, and I think Donald Trump, again, did a very good job in explaining what is at stake as far as the Supreme Court justices go, as far as this abortion ruling possibly being overturned. He basically stated what we already know, and everybody knows, is that whoever gets to appoint the Supreme Court justices can actually appoint either a pro-abortion or pro-life justice. And if they appoint a pro-life justice, there's an opportunity for this abortion to be outlawed in our country as it once was. And so there are great stakes here at who is elected as president and who gets to appoint the judges, and then what these judges will ultimately decide, because the issue of abortion since 1973 has not been settled. It has not been settled in our nation. It has not been settled among the people. There's still a debate all these many decades later, and that shows you that it shouldn't be judges that actually make this decision. It should be people who make this decision. It should be the states, or it should be people, not just 9 members of a judgeship. So Donald Trump explained this situation very clearly, but Chris Matthews wanted to go deeper into this issue, and he says he never could understand the pro-life position. Well, that's not exactly true. I think he really does understand the pro-life position, but he doesn't agree with the pro-life position. And as we'll see later in the interview, he actually says that his church, the Roman Catholic Church, has one stand, but he takes another stand on the abortion issue, which is inconsistent, and Donald Trump shows how that's inconsistent. But that's later in the interview. What Chris Matthews is asking Donald Trump now is what should be the punishment for the crime of abortion if abortion is outlawed. Now, these are different issues. These are different questions. The question of whether abortion should be outlawed is one question. The question of how you then punish offenders of this law who break it is another issue. And Chris Matthews tried to want to throw them all together and say, see, we shouldn't even do anything about the abortion situation right now because it would mess up the punishment would be too complicated and it would be a mess. And he wanted to draw Donald Trump into a slippery slope. He wanted to draw Donald Trump into a piling on of problems that might come about if the Supreme Court were to overturn Roe v. Wade and et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's the wrong way to go because you have to figure out whether something is right or wrong first before you start worrying about the consequences of getting something right. Now, if abortion is wrong, it needs to be outlawed, whether that is a easy or hard consequence to punish when people violate the law. So he really comes at Donald Trump, and Donald Trump, amazingly enough, holds his own ground. And I really think, again, we have to admire Donald Trump in his exchange with Chris Matthews because he's not trying to dodge the issue. He's trying to be honest. And I think he does a very good job in articulating the pro-life position. And this is actually very good. I enjoyed hearing him defend the pro-life position. And he didn't try to no comment or weasel his way out of this. He actually tackled the questions and actually turned the questions over to Chris Matthews and started asking him questions about how he would process these kinds of issues. So let's go further and see what Donald Trump said.
Look.
This is not something you can dodge. If you say abortion is a crime or abortion is murder, you have to deal with it under the law. Should abortion be punished?
Well, people in certain parts of the Republican Party and conservative Republicans would say, yes, they should be punished.
How about you?
I would say that it's a very serious problem, and it's a problem that we have to decide on. It's very hard.
But you're for banning it.
Are you going to say, well, wait, are you going to say put them in jail? Is that
well,
the
no, what
punishment
I'm asking
that you're talking about?
Because you say you want to ban it. What's that mean?
I am pro-life, yes.
What is ban? How do you ban abortion? How do you actually do it?
Well, you know, you'll go back to a position like they had where people will perhaps go to illegal places.
Yeah.
But you have to ban it.
You ban it and they go to somebody who flunked out of medical school.
Are you Catholic?
Yes, I think
And how do you feel about the Catholic Church's position?
I accept the teaching authority of my church on moral issues.
But do you know their position on abortion?
Yes, I do.
And do you concur with that position?
I concur with their moral position, but legally I get to the question. Here's my problem with it.
No, but let me ask you, but what do you say about
It's not funny.
Your church? Yeah, it's really not a funny thing. What do you say about your church? They're very, very strong.
They're allowed to, but the churches make their moral judgments, but you running for president of the United States will be chief executive of the United States. Do you believe believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
10 cents, 10 years,
I don't know. That I don't know. That
why
I don't
not?
know. I don't know.
You take positions and everything else.
Frankly, I do take positions and everything else. It's a very complicated position.
Well, Donald Trump's answer was exactly right. And I think we need to respect him for his gut reaction. It was right on. It was perfectly consistent with our pro-life views. Donald Trump said that the woman has to be punished in some way if abortion is illegal in our land, if the Supreme Court justices at some future time overrule Roe v. Wade and make abortion once again in our land illegal, then if a woman deliberately goes to have an abortion, she must be punished in some way. But then again, what he said was another truth that we have to talk about, the punishment. What is it? Chris Matthews starts throwing out things like jail time and these detailed punishments. Well, that's something to be determined once a law is in effect. Once a law is written, then the punishment is also to be determined. And so these are things that have to be worked out, but they don't have to have answers, all of them, all at one time, like Chris Matthews seems to be implying. He seems to be saying, if you're going to overturn Roe v. Wade, if you're going to make abortion illegal in the country. How are you going to enforce it? And are you telling me you're going to actually punish women? Well, if they break the law, why wouldn't a woman be punished legally or put before the court or stand before a judge for breaking the law, just like anybody else breaking the law? If you commit murder, you should have to stand before a judge and you should be sentenced. And if you commit murder in the womb, you should have to be sentenced as well. So that's totally consistent. And I don't understand why now pro-life organizations such as the March for Life and pro-life people, pro-life politicians, would then say, no, that's outrageous. We would never want to punish the woman. Why not? If she commits murder, if she breaks the law, if she is involved in criminal activity, which abortion would be if it's illegal, then she should be punished. Now, I also heard Ben Carson, the evangelical Christian Ben Carson, who I highly respect. He also made the comment that he would be opposed to punishing the woman who sought an abortion. He would only be interested in seeing punishment to the doctor, the provider, the abortion provider. Well, why would that be? Why would he only want to prosecute the doctor who performed the abortion? What about the woman who knew it was illegal to go for the abortion and took herself to the abortion doctor to have the baby aborted? What about her? How can you ignore the fact that a woman is going to an abortion clinic to have her baby murdered? Unless you're going to say that the woman is a total victim of society, she's a total victim of competing philosophies, that she's confused, unless you treat the woman as a child, incapable of making rational choices. But that's totally the opposite of what the pro-choice movement has always been making. They've said that a woman needs to have the opportunity and responsibility of making a choice. Well, here, if abortion is made illegal, she makes a choice to break the law and have an abortion. And then we say, well, we can't punish her, we can't prosecute her for breaking the law because she was a victim. No, that makes no sense. And I think Ben Carson needs to explain to people why he would only be in favor of prosecuting the doctor who performs the abortion and not the woman who took herself and her baby to the doctor to have the abortion. It's totally inconsistent.
And then Governor John Kasich responded to those comments you just heard from Donald Trump. He was speaking with NBC's Chuck Todd. His remarks made just after Chuck Todd's town hall with the governor, which was taped here in New York this afternoon. Let's take a listen to what John Kasich had to say.
Chris Matthews asked Donald Trump, is that there should there be some form of punishment for women who have abortion? And Trump said, yeah, I think there should be a punishment. He didn't describe what that punishment is. I know you're somebody who believes that abortion should be banned. Would you punish, should women who get abortions be punished?
Absolutely not. And I mean, I do have exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother, but of course women shouldn't be punished. I think probably Donald Trump will figure out a way to say that he didn't say it or he was misquoted or whatever, but I don't think so. I don't think that's an appropriate response, and it's a difficult enough situation and to try to punish somebody.
Let me ask you this. How do you enforce a ban on abortion?
Well, look, I think it's rape, incest, life of the mother, and you build some restrictions around it, but I think you have to be very careful in the way you do it. We're a long way from there.
We also see other candidates like John Kasich coming out and saying this is outrageous. Of course we would not want to punish the woman or prosecute the woman for going to have an abortion. Why not? Why not have some kind of penalty for her to be determined? After all, it's breaking the law if abortion is made illegal. So I think Donald Trump was actually very profound on this. He did a great job of trying to answer a difficult question, and I think we should applaud him for making the effort to try to be consistent. Now let's watch some more.
But you say bluntly you're pro-life, meaning you want to ban it.
But the Catholic Church is pro-life.
No, let's not talk about my religion.
But no, I am talking about your religion. Your religion, I mean, you say you're a very good Catholic.
I didn't say very good. I said I'm a Catholic. And secondly, I'm asking, you're running for president, I'm not. I'm asking you, what should a woman face if she chooses to have an abortion?
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play that game. You
said you're pro-life.
I am pro-life.
That means banning abortion.
And so is the Catholic Church pro-life.
But they don't control this isn't Spain. We don't control the church doesn't control the government.
What is the punishment under the Catholic Church? What is the punishment?
Let me give you something from the New Testament. Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. Don't ask me about my religion.
No,
I'm asking you. You want to be president of the United States. You tell me what the law should be. Just tell me what the law should be. You said you're pro-life.
I am pro-life.
What's that mean?
With exceptions. I am pro-life. I have not determined what the punishment would be.
Why not?
Because I haven't determined
when you decide to be pro-life, you should have thought of it. Because
no, you could ask anybody that's pro-life, and they haven't
Here's my problem with this. If you don't have a punishment for abortion, I don't believe in it, of course, people are going to find a way to have an abortion.
You don't believe in what? You don't believe in what?
I don't believe in punishing anybody for having an abortion.
Okay, fine. Okay, that's
of course
fine.
not. And I think it's a woman's choice.
So you're against the teachings of your church?
I believe I have a view, and a moral view, but I believe we live in a free country, and I don't want to live in a country so fascistic that it can stop a person from making that decision.
But then that
would be so invasive.
But I've heard
so determinative of a society that I wouldn't be one we're familiar with. And Donald Trump, you wouldn't be familiar with a society like that.
But I've heard you speaking so highly about your religion and your church.
Yeah.
Your church is very, very strongly, as you know, pro-life.
I know.
What do you say to your church?
I say, I accept your moral authority. In the United States, the people make the decisions, the courts rule on what's in the Constitution, and we live by that. That's what I say.
Yeah, but you don't live by it because you don't accept it. You can't accept it. You can't accept it. You can't accept it.
Can we go back to matters of the law and running for president? Because matters of the law, what I'm talking about, and this is the difficult situation you placed yourself in. By saying you're pro-life, you mean you want to ban abortion. How do you ban abortion without some kind of sanction? Then you get into that very tricky question of a sanction. A fine on human life, which you call murder.
It'll have to be determined.
A fine,
imprisonment
for a young woman who finds herself pregnant.
It will have to be determined.
What about the guy that gets her?
You notice the way Chris Matthews is presenting the problem. He's saying, what do you do? How do you punish a woman who finds herself pregnant? There's all kinds of ways that a woman who finds herself pregnant can deal with the fact that she's pregnant. And under the law, if abortion is banned, she would have to put that child up for adoption. She isn't a victim because she has been making choices all along the way. She made a choice to have sex before she was ready to have a child. She had to make a choice to be in a relationship with this man or boyfriend or whoever it was. And she made choices all along the way. She's not a harmless, innocent victim. She is a rational person. And Chris Matthews seems to be wanting to treat all women who get pregnant as victims. He seems to feel that they're all deserving of some kind of special pass from any law that may be on the books. If the Supreme Court overrules the Roe v. Wade decision and abortion is illegal again, then if the woman has an abortion, that's a crime. And why shouldn't she be punished? If she goes to some illegal back alley abortionist and harms herself in the process and is injured, again, that's a rational choice she makes. Chris Matthews seems to feel that all women who ever have children or are pregnant are victims. This is totally false, and I think Donald Trump tries to show that even that is hypocrisy. Let's watch some more.
Pregnant. Is he responsible under the law for these abortions? or is he not responsible for an abortion decision?
It hasn't, different feelings, different people.
Yeah.
I would say no.
Yeah, well, they're usually...
Okay, so that wraps it up. A very interesting interview between Donald Trump and Chris Matthews of MSNBC. I think you saw a lot of the dialogue there that took place, and I think you have to agree that they actually got into some pretty substantive topics. They raised a number of different issues, and I think the problem was with Chris Matthews was trying to equate the consequences of overturning Roe v. Wade with some kind of a chaotic social situation where if you overturn Roe v. Wade, there would be so many problems that it would cause that we would never want to overturn Roe v. Wade. He was trying to pile on all these problems in a way that is not done in other situations of the law. For example, we recently saw the last 3-4 years, we've seen this national health care, Obamacare as it's called. And if you want to look at the consequences of some piece of legislation and then pile on all of the problems that could come about with that legislation and say, see, there are too many problems, so we couldn't have it passed, well, the liberal Democrats went ahead with hardly knowing any of the consequences and did it and caused a lot of social chaos, but they felt it was worth it because on principle they felt that there should be national health care. Well, in the case of Roe v. Wade, if Roe v. Wade is wrong in the decision that was made back then in 1973, it should be overturned, and then the consequences of that act will be sorted out and sifted out. And Chris Matthews keeps trying to pin Donald Trump. You have to come up with a punishment right now, right here, right now. You have to tell us what kind of punishment would be. And Donald Trump's, it has to be determined. It has to be determined. He's exactly right. Now, what I don't like is that the pro-life groups and pro-life persons, prominent pro-life persons, many of them have come out and said, no, we would never be in favor of punishing the woman for an abortion. And I've explained previously that that is totally inconsistent. And I think if pro-life Christians and pro-life politicians and pro-life organizations, if they just simply sit down and think about the implications of banning abortion in the United States and think about the consequences of a law that would say no abortions allowed, then of course, if they thought about it, they would have to conclude, yes, it has to be some kind of a punishment for a woman that would seek an abortion, that would have an abortion. Yes, there has to be. Definitely there would have to be. Because if you don't have any kind of punishment, if there's no consequence, then you don't have a law. There is no law. If there's no penalty for breaking the law, then there's no law, practically speaking, even if there is one on the books. And so I would say Donald Trump acted very consistently pro-life in this interview. Sadly, though, he's backed away from that. Now he's taking the position of the other pro-life people that I've heard in the media that said, no, we wouldn't want to punish the woman who sought an abortion and had an abortion, only the doctor. That's totally wrong, totally inconsistent, and I hope that Christians and pro-life people finally get it through their heads that you can't have a law against abortion if you don't enforce it. And you can't enforce a law against abortion if you don't punish criminal offenders of it. So we need to get clear thinking on this. Well, thank you for watching the program today, and we'll see you back next week on another edition of Christian Answers. God bless.